Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar with SQFI and featuring our longtime industry supporter and partner, SafetyChain. SafetyChain is a cloud-based digital plant management platform for management of operations, food safety, and quality, and for compliance and real-time visibility to control and optimize performance. Our featured speaker from SafetyChain is Ruth Bitterman. Ruth is an experienced food industry consultant and continuous improvement coach. And Ruth will share her expertise on the advantages of SQF food safety certification to facilitate continuous improvement. This is based on her many years of experience implementing SQF at a variety of food facilities. But first, I'd like to do a bit of housekeeping. I'd like to share the FMI antitrust statement. Please take a moment to review the antitrust statement that's been provided to you here on the screen. Conversations regarding price fixing, boycotting, trade restrictions, or other violations of antitrust law are to be avoided. If you believe that the conversation is in violation of the antitrust law, please speak up and we will do the same. Now, without further ado, please welcome Ruth Bitterman from SafetyChain to tell us about how SQFI supports continuous improvement.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome everybody. So I'm just going to dive right in. What is process improvement? And how does SQF certification drive process improvement? What is SQF? SQF is a GFSI standard. It helps to verify and demonstrate that food safety and quality controls have been effectively validated, implemented, and monitored. Becoming certified to the GFSI standard is the right thing to do, earns trust from your customers and consumers, and makes your company better. It allows you to stay current with the standards and manufacturing processes. I had a client at one point who was seeking to get SQF certification because they wanted to be able to sell to Costco and Sam's Club, US Food Service. But until they achieved their SQF certification, these large companies would not purchase their products. Companies require the SQF certification because they know that the constantly changing world of food requires process improvement and innovation. Staying current requires process changes, which are generally process improvements, and a certification body can help manufacturers to stay on top of the trends and new challenges in the industry that you might not have your eyes on because you're focused on your particular food product. Next slide, please. So what is process improvement? Process improvement is a methodology that assists with collection and evaluation of feedback about processes to ensure continual improvement. Some processes that lend themselves to continuous improvement are pest control, line performance, your HACCP plan, your CAPA program, and supplier verification. So with pest control, we always need to be monitoring and changing locations of traps or tin cats and fly lights based on activity. Sometimes it's time of the year, so you're having to change out your glue boards behind your fly lights more often. Sometimes you have activity because there's a breach in your building. So maybe one of your doors has a crack in it, or maybe there's a hole in the side of the building that you didn't know about. So it's constant improvement. You're always looking, when you see something like that, you're looking to see how you can improve what's currently happening. With line performance, we constantly look to improve our lines so that we don't have as many kickouts or metal detection failures. That's part of our HACCP program, and it's part of SQF. And so with our HACCP plan and with our with line performance, they kind of go hand in hand. Our lines need to be clean and functioning properly, and our metal detectors need to be functioning properly, and those are all documented. And it helps us when we look at our line to potentially improve performance. Maybe there's a jump belt we can get rid of or something and it's been causing us some challenges, but we've had to look at it because we've had maybe a count or something. So it's all part of your SQF program where you're looking at some of these things. Your intention might be line performance, but you might end up improving because of other things that happen as well, and they might be part of your SQF program. Continual improvement is part of your CAPA program, so your corrective action and preventive action program. How do we, there's a customer complaint out in the field, and so we need to do an investigation around that complaint. What happened? How did it happen? Why did it happen? And then we have to put in a preventive action, which is something that's going to help us to be better so that we don't run into this problem again. Again, a process improvement that's driven through your SQF program. We do have a couple of poll questions. So if we can put the first poll question up, and we'll give you time to respond. Okay. Looks like a lot of your facilities are SQF certified. That's fantastic. It's a great program, and it takes some effort, but it's well worth it in the end. Thanks for your answers. Let's go to the next slide then. Oh, okay. Okay, so what are some of the drivers for improvement? Better efficiencies, as was mentioned. A better quality finished product, more consistent weight, change in packaging, new machinery, change in certification and regulations. So I've talked about better efficiencies, just getting a better, maybe more product through your line or something else. And so through process improvement, we get those better efficiencies. Maybe we're looking for a more consistent weight because our weights are fluctuating, and that's part of our program is that we say we are going to produce a product that's X number of ounces, but we're all over the board. And so it's a regulation where we have to meet our stated weight. Through SQF, we're watching that. We're watching to make sure that we are monitoring that program and keeping track of all of our weights. Sometimes new machinery will be a driver for improvement, or is the first improvement, and then you need to make more improvements to your line in order to be able to accept that piece of machinery. So maybe you have a jump belt in place that is attaching the old piece of equipment to your line, and you don't need it with the new piece of equipment. So those things help, but maybe that old jump belt was a problem anyway, because it might have had some hits on it, and you were trying to figure out how you were going to manage that piece of equipment. So new machinery can lead to new improvement. Maybe you have a change in packaging, and maybe that change in packaging was driven because you had product out in the field that wasn't meeting your date coding, so it was not staying fresh long enough. So you went to a new package. That's an improvement. It's an improvement on your shelf life. It could also lead to an improvement in your process. It could lead to better efficiencies on your line because that new film runs better on your line. Sorry, this is not functioning again correctly, I don't think. Carrie, can you tell me which screen you're seeing? Oh,
It's on drivers for improvement. Yeah.
Yep. Can we go to the next slide then? Sorry about that. Okay, so how does SQF help drive improvement continuously? So as you can see, the graphic on the left-hand side shows that improvement it's a cycle, it's a circle. So you evaluate something, and then you decide next steps, and then you plan the improvement and you implement the improvement, but you're not done. You need to evaluate that improvement to make sure that it's doing what you wanted it to do. And you might need to make some small changes to that, or you might need to start all over again. So it's continually looking at your process and that piece that you changed to to make sure that continuous improvement did help and is continually monitored, and you're always looking at it. So how does SQF help to drive your continuous improvement? Your CAPA programs, as I mentioned before, you have your corrective action that is a customer complaint, and you need to come up with a corrective action and then a preventive action, so that in the future you don't run into it. It's part of your SQF program that is audited and an auditable item. Critical quality points, those were newer. We didn't used to have to look at critical quality points, but when SQF started looking at them, so did we. Your environmental monitoring program, that is part of your food safety. It's part of your SQF audit. Your environmental monitoring program should be looked at on a regular basis. Looking at your lab results and seeing where you have hits, or seeing where you have activity or higher counts than you'd had before, and it creates an investigation around that. So it's an improvement in your environmental monitoring program to make sure that you're providing that safe quality food. It can also help you to, if you're swabbing or looking at a particular area and you're not getting any hits, well, then maybe that's an area you don't need to do right now. Maybe you can rotate it out and go to another area to swab. Doesn't mean you take it out of your program entirely, but maybe you don't need to swab it all the time as you thought you did. So that's an improvement. Either you need to swab and do an investigation, or do more swabs to understand what's going on, or you need to, or you can, discontinue swabbing a certain area because you're simply not seeing anything there. Your HACCP program, it's a requirement through SQF to review your HACCP program annually and sign off on it. It's something that's important and that you should be doing anyway, and probably more often than annually. Particularly if you have a large change in machinery in your facility, or a line change, something that's a major change to your process, as well as any new ingredients or allergens that you might be starting to use in your products. You have to review your HACCP plan and make sure that you are taking care of everything that those items might have brought to light in your HACCP program. So again, your line changes, review your HACCP plan, make sure that what you're doing is the right thing to do and is going to catch those critical items. Supplier approval program, that's an update to the previous version, not the supplier program itself, but that we now need to have emergency backup suppliers, and we need to have all of their information right there in front of us. We can't go and decide that we're going to use a supplier that isn't a regular supplier that we haven't vetted out. That's an improvement. It not only helps us to make sure that we are that we're receiving ingredients that are of quality and will work in our process, but we're also making sure that we have those contacts where we can go to them if we have an issue, if there's something that we were getting from a particular supplier and we can't get that from them any longer. It's an easy thing to do then, just to look at your backup supplier and not have to vet them. So how do we track and trend and figure out what needs to be improved? So we track and trend by recording data. So it could either be manually or on a digital platform. We notice that we might need a continuous improvement because we've got a record review. To help us in that, to help us in the trending and tracking, to help us in the record review, digitizing to a platform is a great way to do that. So with using a digital platform, you eliminate the double entry. You're not out on the line using paper, writing things down, going back to your desk, entering that information, and then plotting it on an Excel graph, and then sending it out to the facility and everybody who needs to see it. It's real time, right there in front of you, and those graphs and trends are easily accessible to everybody. So it's a great way to also build team respect throughout your facility, to keep people honest and true, and everybody knows what's going on, and you can help others as well. We do have a poll question, so if we want to put that up, please. Oh, great. So this might be an area where some of you might want to take the messages from today, and kind of help to get you digitized. It's a great way to track and trend. It's much easier than the traditional paper. Real-time data, again, not only for your food safety requirements, but also for your efficiencies. Next slide, please. So what were some of the updates in version 9? Health of your workers, it requires a medical screening. Your supplier compliance. Again, I mentioned this before. We now need to include emergency suppliers, multi-site certification. So now we don't have to go ahead and have every one of our sites certified. What we need to do is simply potentially have our main site certified, and then they are certified underneath us. That's for non-high-risk products or processes. Chemical application and decision for use and choice of chemical. We need to have a trained and knowledgeable individual now. That didn't used to be part of the SQF certification process, but it is an improvement. It's an improvement for your workers, so that we have somebody who's working with those chemicals and knows how to use them and knows their dangers, and knows what concentration to be used, what concentration to use, and on what items, what pieces of machinery. So those are all some great improvements, and the multi-site certification actually, is an assistance for us, where we don't have to have as many sites certified. It makes it a little bit easier. So SQF doesn't always add things to our plates. Sometimes we get things taken away from our plates. So next slide, please. So what can help when implementing these changes to have your continuous improvement? Keeping detailed records. I know we need to do that. Sometimes the detailed records aren't as great as we wanted them to, as we wanted them to be. But that's another area for improvements. We need to look back at our records to see what's been happening over time. Again, implementing a digital platform makes things much easier. It makes things flow really nicely. And it's data that's there forever. I mean, it's not changed. It's there, and it's what you entered. Reviewing your current practices. So maybe an SQF code that's been changed is something that you've already put into practice, but maybe you're not documenting it, or maybe you've already got it in practice, but you're not necessarily doing it to the best ability. So SQF is going to help to make us understand what am I missing? I'm kind of already doing this, but what am I missing in this process improvement? One of the things that I have always enjoyed is making the change a challenge. Make it fun. I had a plant manager at one point who I worked with him very closely, and he thought of making the change a challenge. Make it something that's fun. It's a puzzle. It's a game. so dig into it like it's a puzzle or a game. Dig into it and bring, the people who know the best about the item that you're trying to change or the improvement that you're trying to implement. Bring those people in. It's a teamwork effort. SQF is a teamwork effort. So SQF also helps in that process, in making your team a stronger team, and bringing in those individuals who might not be part of the SQF process and don't know what it is. But by sharing that with them, they become a stronger player for you. Next slide, please. Okay, so allow your audit program to help drive the process improvement. So say what you do what you say, and document it. I mean, another way to look at it is the obstacle is the why. The audit is a new why. So in the past, maybe you found an obstacle, and that was why you're doing the continuous improvement. And now you're looking at your audit and thinking, oh, I need to adjust to be able to continue to be certified as an SQF facility. And that's now my why. Why do I have to do it? Because I've got an audit, and the audit is requiring it. Next slide, please. That's all I've got, but I hope I've given you some things to think about, and ready to have any questions that have come up.
Thanks, Ruth. We do have some questions.
Okay.
There were a few that I wanted to raise right away. So you had talked a little bit earlier on about CQPs. So if a site is already food safety certified, but they're looking to go to the SQF quality certification, which used to be called level 3, but now it's just SQF quality code. Can you tell us the difference between a CCP and a CQP? And is there a difference in the process for deciding what those are?
Sure. I mean, a CCP is a critical control point. That's what CCP stands for. It's in place to control a potential food safety concern. So it's more about food safety than it is about the quality, how the quality looks, or I mean, sorry, how the product looks or smells, or something like that. And so a critical quality point is all about that. It's all about the quality. It's in place to control the quality concern, like an off color, an off flavor, an off odor, or any other type of visual concern. The process is much the same. I mean, you still have to do an investigation around it and figure out what your critical quality point is. So they're much the same.
Okay. So you might work with your customer to figure out what those CQPs are, or maybe your marketing department who is doing the product design, so that you know what the consumer expectations are.
Yep, and your R&D department.
Okay, great. You mentioned the digital platform and some of the benefits of a digital platform, and something that I think about is, it's read throughout the SQF quality code, is you must have a documented procedure and frequency of this and that. So there's a lot of different schedules to keep up with. And what have you seen as a benefit in terms of maintaining the compliance with the SQF expectations throughout the year by using a digital platform?
Sure. So digital platforms are paperless. They really help to keep that paper load down. They help with your audits when you're going through your audit, where you don't have to, sort through all these books that have all this paper in them, or something that's on somebody's clipboard out in the facility that you need now because your auditor is asking for it, or something that was 7 months ago on a particular date. It's much easier to find on your digital platform. It also helps in completing a task and making sure that it's documented and it's been done in the proper time. So digital platforms help with that. They can also help to remind you that, hey, you've got a check coming up in 5 minutes, or hey, this line is running now. You need to get over there and do your metal detector check, or whatever it may be. So they're very useful in that. Again, the tracking and the trending. Data is great, but if it's not utilized in the way it should be, why collect it? it's a lot of work to be collecting all that information and not utilizing it, not making it into a graph that actually is visual and makes sense. You can see the changes quite easily. Whereas if you're searching through numbers on a spreadsheet, it's not easy to see those tracks, just to see those trends. And you know, it cuts down on time. No more double entry. We're not putting it on paper and then putting it into the computer and then building a graph off of it, and then sending it out to all of the people who need to see this graph. So it's everyone can see it, the parts that they need to see. So it's transparent. And I think it also builds a teamwork environment, because everybody is seeing it. And they can see what's happening and you know, potentially say, hey, I know what's going on, I can help you. So it's a great way to have that everybody seeing what's going on so that they can assist if need be.
Yeah, and like getting management buy-in for that management commitment. So if they see things improving, or hey, here's a way we can do a cost control, or look at this change we did, saved you 5 cents a pound or something like that, that can really motivate management to continue investing in continuous improvement, I think, and driving that food safety culture.
Exactly. It's all about the food safety culture, which is it's amazing when you're able to get to that point. It's amazing.
Yeah. Everybody's pulling the same direction.
Yep.
So if you're thinking about a site who's really right now shuffling through all the paperwork and having, you know, have stacks of binders on a shelf in the QA's office, what would you say to help a system or a site migrate from their paper system to a digital platform? What in your experience is the best way to approach that?
It really depends on the facility and where they're at in their programs and how digitally savvy some of their people are. But you know, one of the best times to implement a digital platform is just after you've had an audit, so that you can start your audit year fresh with all of your information in one platform. And you're not, when the audit comes, if the auditor asks you for something that you've got on paper, you're not trying to go back and forth between the two. Anytime is a good time to start a digital platform. It makes everything easier. But I think maybe one of the better times is just after you've had an audit.
Yeah, I can see it both ways. If you're already SQF certified, you may already have those systems in place and people understand that. So managing it through a digital platform is a natural progression. But then again, if you've implemented a digital platform and really get used to doing it, then your SQF certification audit might be super easy. So I think going one or the other first has its advantages. Great. Any other questions? I don't see any other questions in the chat. If you have any more, please do enter them now. But if not, I would just like to thank Ruth so much for joining us for the webinar and helping us understand a little bit more about the digital platforms that help drive the food safety systems and help manage all of those system elements that are really the important foundation for you know, that continuous improvement process. So thank you very much, Ruth. Much appreciated.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it, and I hope that the audience has been able to get something out of it.
Yeah, and feel free to contact us if you have questions, and we'll make sure to get you in touch with Ruth. And we also have a lot of great information on the SQF website if you'd like to investigate some training opportunities around continuous improvement that Ruth described. So we'd love to see you on the website at sqfi.com. Thanks a lot.